Tonight, you'll flip a switch, turn on a stove, or light a candle without giving it a second thought. The light will stay on because you expect it to. The warmth will be there whenever you need it. Now imagine a world where one tiny flame was the only thing standing between your family and the darkness. Not because the night was scary, because the night was hunting you. If that flame died, the cold closed in. Strange sounds moved closer. Every shadow became a place where something could be waiting. There was no second chance, no lighter, no match, no backup. One fading glow stood between your family and the darkness. So why was losing that tiny flame one of the deadliest mistakes an ancient human could make? Every ancient human understood one thing. A fire was easy to lose, but incredibly hard to replace. That changes the story completely. This video isn't about who first discovered fire. It's about something far more important. How did our ancestors survive before they truly mastered it? How did they protect a single flame through long, dangerous nights? And what happened when they couldn't? To answer that, we have to go back to a time when darkness arrived every evening. And every sunset became another fight to stay alive. Around 1 million years ago, parts of Africa looked very different from the world you know today. Wide grasslands stretched to the horizon. Scattered trees offered little shelter. Days could be hot. Nights could turn surprisingly cold. Every evening changed the rules. Archaeologists believe early humans were already living in small groups across these changing landscapes. They followed water, animals, and the seasons. They carried only what they could keep with them. Every day demanded another decision. Some evidence suggests that natural fires were already part of this world. Lightning struck dry grass. Wildfires swept across the land. Flames appeared without warning, then disappeared just as quickly. For early humans, fire was likely something they saw long before they truly understood it. It was familiar, yet it remained unpredictable. And when the sun dropped below the horizon, every unanswered question suddenly became much more dangerous. When the last light disappeared, the world changed in an instant. The real enemy wasn't the cold. It wasn't hunger. It wasn't even the animals waiting in the dark. It was the darkness itself. Darkness took away the one advantage humans depended on most: their eyes. A leopard could still see. A hyena could still hunt. An owl could spot the slightest movement from above. But a human could barely see a few steps ahead. Every shadow could hide danger. Every sound could mean something was getting closer. A snapped branch. A low growl. Heavy footsteps that stopped without warning. You couldn't tell how far away they were. You couldn't tell how many there were. You couldn't even tell which direction to run. Panic became as deadly as any predator. One wrong step could lead straight into waiting jaws. When night arrived, humans didn't become weaker. They became almost blind. And in a world where survival depended on seeing danger first, blindness could be a death sentence. But humans had an even bigger problem. Compared to the animals around them, early humans looked like easy prey. They had no thick fur to keep them warm, no sharp claws to fight back, no long fangs to scare a predator away. They couldn't run as fast as a deer. They couldn't smell danger like a wolf. They couldn't hear the smallest movement like a fox. Even their eyes struggled after sunset. Almost every animal seemed to have an advantage. Humans had none of them. On their own, they were slow, they were exposed, they got tired, they made mistakes. And one mistake could be enough. Nature didn't build humans to be the strongest. It didn't build them to be the fastest. It didn't even build them to survive the night alone. That was the real weakness, not a lack of courage, but a body that simply wasn't designed for the world it faced. Yet, somehow our ancestors refused to disappear. They didn't survive because they became stronger than nature. They survived because they stopped relying on strength alone, but they found another way. For a long time, Our ancestors didn't control fire. They depended on finding it, a lightning strike, a burning tree, a wildfire that left glowing branches behind. If they were lucky, they didn't let those flames die. They carried burning sticks as they moved. They protected glowing embers with great care. They did everything they could to keep that tiny flame alive. It wasn't about making a fire. It was about not losing the one they already had. That simple habit changed the way they travelled. A single ember could bring warmth to the next campsite. It could push back the darkness for one more night. It could give a small group one more chance to survive. But luck was never enough. Rain could put the fire out. Strong winds could scatter the embers. A long journey could leave nothing but cold ashes. And once the last glow disappeared, they were back where they had started. But something was still missing. For a while, that was enough. One small flame could keep hope alive, but hope was fragile. A single storm could erase it. A careless step could scatter the last embers. A long journey could leave nothing but cold ashes. Then everything was lost. They weren't just losing a fire, they were losing their best chance to survive. Finding another flame wasn't the real answer. What changed everything? For thousands of generations, fire was something people chased. Then, one simple idea changed everything. They stopped protecting only the flame. They began protecting the place where the flame lived. Archaeologists have found ancient fire pits in places where people returned again and again. Burned bones, charcoal, rings of ash. They tell the same story. The fire pit turned a wandering flame into something that could stay. A shallow pit kept the hottest embers together. The wind could not scatter them so easily. The heat stayed where people needed it most. A dying flame no longer meant starting over from nothing. It only needed a little care, a few dry sticks, a handful of glowing coals, and the fire came back to life. That changed the way people thought. The goal was no longer to find another flame. It was to protect the one they already had. For the first time, fire became something they could depend on, instead of something they hoped to find. It wasn't perfect. It could still fail, but it no longer disappeared with every mistake. Now humans could. Fire alone could not protect anyone. People did. Someone had to gather dry wood before the sun went down. Someone had to watch the flames while others slept. Someone had to carry glowing embers when the group moved on. Children learned by watching. Adults learned by doing. Knowledge passed from one pair of hands to the next. If one person forgot, everyone was at risk. If one person stayed alert, everyone had a better chance to see another sunrise. That was the real difference. No one survived because of one person. They survived because everyone had a role. Small habits became shared rules. Shared rules became shared knowledge. And shared knowledge kept the whole group alive. This changed everything. The wind howled across the camp. A child looked toward the darkness. The flame was shrinking. One by one, people moved into place. One added dry wood. Another shielded the fire from the wind. An elder stirred the glowing coals. No one spoke. Everyone knew what was at stake. For a moment, the light almost disappeared. Then the embers glowed again. The flames slowly rose. The darkness pulled back. The children settled. The hunters could finally rest. They had not defeated the night. They had simply survived it. That tiny flame didn't just survive the storm. It carried an entire family into another sunrise. We were never the biggest. We were never the fastest. And we were never the strongest. What kept our ancestors alive was something far more powerful. They learned, they shared, they protected what mattered. In the end, the greatest human survival tool was never fire alone. It was the ability to keep knowledge alive. Tonight, you'll turn on a light without thinking about it. You'll trust that it will still be there tomorrow. That quiet confidence began long before cities, before history, and before written words. It began when our ancestors learned that survival wasn't just about finding fire. It was about keeping it alive together, but mastering a flame was only the beginning. Once they could protect the fire, they faced a new question. What happened after ancient humans finally made fire part of everyday life?